So we're going to start out here. Yeah, this is pretty cool, huh? So we're going to look here in Final. So, okay, this is a GMZ file. That's like a packed up GameMaker project. So at the end of the demo or like at the game jam time, if you're like super lost and don't understand what's going on, you can open this baby up, just pop it in, import it. Hey guys, you can import it and open it up in GameMaker and see all of what we did tonight. And so that's really good stuff. All right, so what's up guys? We're gonna try to get GameMaker Studio installed. Okay, so basically what we're doing tonight is we're gonna make this game. I made a little executable of the tutorial that we're doing tonight, so we get to look at it, and it's all pretty and stuff. So it's loading up. I don't know what's happening. Pending. Anyway, we're making a top-down game where you just walk around and you get coins. It's going to be pretty simple, straightforward game. You're the little character that... Oh, that's loud. Ah. Okay. So you're the character that Liv made, right? And you walk around in this really not fitting background and walls and stuff. And you can pick up coins. Yay, and it shows you the coin score right there. It's very small on Chris's computer. Oh, I'm using Chris's computer, by the way. I don't really care to explain why. Not important. But anyway, that's our game. And whenever you collect all the coins, which I'm not going to bother to do right now because it's a waste of our time, is it moves to the next level. And you get to pick up more coins. Yeah. So all of these, basically, the first thing we want to do is understand that all of these images and things during the game jam itself, we're not going to have. We're not going to have all this stuff, right? So like Liv made this stuff, she made it, so like basically during the game jam, she's going to be making this while we're making the game. So instead of using these final assets, we want to use placeholders. So basically, all I did was just make really, really simple representative shapes that tell us what we want. So like, this is a wall. It's very beautiful, I know. And this is the ground. And it's good stuff, right? You just kind of have this like nasty art that you just use until your art person has finished the art. And then we don't have any sounds because you can put in sounds whenever your sound guy's done. All right, so let's begin. First things first, those of you who don't have GameMaker installed, we want to do that. You go to this link, right, we got it up here, and we'll show you how to do that. You got to download Steam and make an account and all that stuff, and then you run this little command. It's kind of weird, but I hope you guys can get that done pretty quick here. Chris, did you help him out with that? All right, so what we're going to do first is we're going to make a new game. So I opened up GameMaker Studio here, so that's what we want to do first. I'm going to click this New tab at the top, and let's move this, because we don't want it there. That's a weird place to put it. So we're going to put it in the little folder that I made. Perfect. So we're going to call it something cool, like HGJ 17 coins, right? Orange Game Jam 17 coins. Yeah, we're all excited for the Orange Game Jam. Woo. So we're going to create that. And GameMaker's going to load a little bit. And it's going to pop up that's really ugly new stuff. Nobody wants that, so you just close that. Boom. Get rid of that. Nobody wants that. And you maximize that. And GameMaker's kind of weird, so it doesn't actually fully maximize it. But anyway, we are going to first talk about all of these little folders on the side here, all this stuff. So basically, we're going to start with this first thing, sprites. So sprites are just like, they're just the images that make up your game. And they're a little bit of data that goes along with those images. So like, you got in here, right, so you got these little like walk animations, right? You got a bunch of different images for that, so like moving. GameMaker has like one sprite for all of that movement. All that animation is just piled into one little sprite. And stuff like that. It just holds a lot of data for you. It's really convenient. So we're going to be making some of those. Sounds pretty straightforward. Backgrounds. Backgrounds are, you can set those for each room. So like, it's just what shows up behind all of your stuff in the game. And you can just make it like, if you're making a platformer game where you like run around and jump and stuff, you can make it like the sky and some ground and make it all nice and pretty and stuff. Or if you're making a top-down game like we're doing, you make it like grass or road or whatever, you know, so like you can't see the sky whenever you're looking top down. So paths, not going to talk about that. Scripts, not going to talk about that. Shaders, not going to talk about that. Fonts, not going to talk about that. Fonts are pretty straightforward. Timelines, not going to talk about that. Objects, these are important. Objects are like everything in your game. So objects, they contain like the code or the like visual programming that you have in your game. That's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to do some like drag and drop. I'll show you that in a second though. This stuff just kind of, it's like all the stuff that does things in your game. So your player, your coins, your walls, right? So like anything that can interact with anything else in any way is an object. And the rooms are what you put objects into. So like you can put your, like we showed in the little demo, right? We had the little player. He was in a room, right? And he's got all the walls in certain places and all the coins and things. And that's just kind of how GameMaker handles keeping track of all that stuff. And you make multiple of those and go through. So what we are going to do is we're going to add all these resources that we just talked about. But as I said, we are going to create placeholders for the sprites because we don't have that art yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up here to the sprites folder and we're going to right click it. We're going to create sprite. Pretty straightforward. Okay, actually, first what we're going to do is not do that. We're going to go in here to File. We're going to change the preference because GameMaker is really weird by default. You want to go to Forms, and let's see. I think it's in Forms. Maybe Editors. Nope. Okay, Scripts and Code. I just like can't deal with this, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to change it real quick. Maybe General. Come on, come on, come on. Gotta find it. Sorry, this is Chris' computer, as I said. I forgot that this was a thing. Let's see. All right, enable pop-out windows. We're going to do this. So we're going to uncheck that so that GameMaker stays in one big window because it's really annoying for GameMaker to change windows. We got to restart. So we're going to get GameMaker here again. But anyway, GameMaker by default like pops out in a bunch of different windows, and it's really hard to like keep track of everything, and I don't like it. So that's what we're doing. If you like it that way, feel free to change it and leave it like that. But that's what I like to do. It keeps it all simple and easy. And we're going to close news again because nobody likes news. So yeah, we're going to start by sprites. So this sprite, we're going to make a player image, right? We're going to load images for the player into the game. So we're going to make sprite SPR_player. You don't actually have to name it anything in particular, but there's one thing that you need to keep in mind. In GameMaker, you can't have all of your different resources be the same name. So like your sprite for your player is going to be a different name for the object for your player. So I do this to keep track of it, just SPR_player. So anyway, what we're going to do first, we're going to click Edit Sprite. So if you're here on Friday, we learned how to do sprite strips, right? Like sprite sheets like this. So like it's a bunch of different images, and in GameMaker, it's going to handle all those images by splitting it up into 4 different images, right? But it's one image right now. So we need to load it into GameMaker in such a way that it splits it up into all those 4 different images. So we are going to go into here, we're going to click File, we're going to click Create from Strip. This is inside Edit Sprite, right? We click that, we go here and File, Create from Strip. And so we're going to find where that is. Not sure which desktop this is. Okay, it looks like it's not the right desktop, so we're going to go to this PC. We're going to find it, all right? So anyway, while we're doing that, I'm going to explain why, I'm just looking for the program stuff. I'm going to explain a little bit more why we use placeholders. So like, as I said, your art person isn't going to have the final art images done. And so you can like make these little images in GameMaker, or you can make them in GIMP and load them into GameMaker, right? We use GIMP on Friday night. But anyway, like what you need to do is you need to talk to your art person and figure out what sizes and what number of images to use, and use that in GameMaker from the start. You don't have to stick with that, but it makes it a lot easier if you don't have to resize a bunch of stuff. So basically in here, once you find the image, you load up the strip and you select the number of images. So like this is a nice little dialog that GameMaker has, just really straightforward way to load a bunch of images in. So number of images, we have 4 of these little guys, right? And they all look the same, but that's okay. And we have 4 images per row, right? And then the image width and image height is 64 by 64. That's just something that your art person you need to talk about and figure out together. So it should look like this. All the borders should be like covered up by this nice little white stuff that shows the different boxes. If we're a little bit behind, Chris can help you out, or we can talk about it if you guys need some more help. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, we're gonna keep moving though. So we click OK there. Does everybody have that? We have 4 images in here.
So
Yeah.
split your sprite sheet into 4 different sprites?
Yes. So like all of these are different images. If we had final stuff, then we would be able to tell if they were different. So like this image, you can just double click. That one's different than all of these, right? You see that? So like this one's 1, this one's 2, right? This one's 3, this one's 4, etc. But we don't want that right now. That's something we're going to do later. So we're just going to leave these. So you click check there, right? So we got our player. And then what we're going to do next is we're going to learn about origins. So down here, outside of the editing part, you have this like basic sprite little dialogue here. You want to click this little button here. It says in the origin box, you're going to click the center. So basically what that does is it changes where the player is drawn like relative to his actual position. So like in GameMaker, you have a position for your object, the player, and then this sprite is drawn at this origin of the player. So like if we had the origin up here, like this little plus here on the screen, that's an origin. So like if we have it up here, the player is going to be drawn like under where the position is. But if we center it, then we're going to have it just right. And so the player is going to be around the X and Y position.
So there's an absolute coordinate system for the room that you're in, and
Right.
then a relative one for your object?
Right. So like this is a relative coordinate system for the player, and it's just, we want to draw him right in the middle. And then wherever he is in the room, that's where it's going to draw him. So next we're going to make a good old coin, right? So we want to create sprite, right click, create sprite, SPR, coin. Now this coin does not have multiple sprite or images in a sprite sheet, so you can just click load sprite here. So just load it up from the file. We're going to find that to get that good old coin. All right, so we got that coin. Is that good? All right, we want to center that too. So the coin is going to be right at the center of where you put it. And then I'm going to create another sprite, one more, for the walls. SPR, wall. All right, so that doesn't have animations either. So you can just click load sprite. You got that wall. So does that make sense? Do we need to take a break and like figure out what everybody is? Are we all in the same spot? Are we good? What's up?
Is the wall supposed to be centered as well?
The wall, okay, that's a good point. I forgot to explain that. So the wall, we don't want to center the wall because the wall is going to be on a grid, right? So like in GameMaker, you can align things to a grid, pretty straightforward, pretty easy. And so the rooms, you want them like right in this little box for the grid. You want them to see just right where that is. And you'll see a little better once we put them in the room why that is. But we want the sprites for the wall just to be in the top left. That's what we want. It's all good right there. So are we good there? Does that make sense to everybody? We're following along? Yeah, all right. So we're good with the sprites. We made all this. So now we're going to go to a background. So that's our next step. Create background, right? So this background, we're just going to load up the grass. We'll find the placeholder grass of the ground. So the reason, once again, just to reiterate, the reason that the background is like this ground that we have is that it's going to be painted all over the screen all at the same time. It's going to stretch, it's going to like tile out all over the screen. So it's just automatically going to look really nice and just be all over your screen. And you never really interact with the ground in a top-down game. You just kind of walk around on the screen. So that's why we want a background instead of a sprite. Because you cannot assign backgrounds to objects. So like, we'll see that in a second, actually. So next we're going to make our objects, right? Objects are what has the code and everything in them. right click, create object. Go up here, we're going to make the player, right? So object underscore player. And so once we do that, we need to assign a sprite to the player. So like the player right now, if we just place the player in the game, he wouldn't look like anything. So we need to associate him with a certain sprite. So we're going to give him sprite player. And it looks like a nice blue box right now. It's perfect. So that's what we want there. And then we want to create another one for the coin. Object coin. And then that's good, right? Everybody follow along with that. Just set it to a sprite. And then create another object for the wall. Object wall. We want to set that to the wall sprite. Click OK. Alright, so we got all our objects and everything. The objects don't do anything right now, but that's okay. We're just going to set up the rooms and everything real quick. Or our first room, just to kind of see how it works. So we're going to right click room, create room. Remember the room is where everything is held, like all the objects and things, you place them around in a room. So you scroll out and you see this big old gray box, right? And this checkerboard. So the checkerboard is basically what's outside the room. So the room is this area right here. That's all we have. That's the room we have. And everything in our game is snappable to a 64 by 64 grid. So this is too small of a grid. So like up here in the top left-ish area, we want to change this to 64 and 64. So that's the size of a wall. So like let's go here to this Objects tab. After you get that snap set for the Objects tab. And so now we've got this object, right? That's the player. We don't want to put the player right now. We want to put walls. So we're going to click in this box right here, this top box. We're going to click down on the wall. So we're going to place the walls. So the walls are really hard to see, right? You can't really see them very well. So we're going to change the background. We go up to this Backgrounds tab. Everybody see the Backgrounds tab. You click down here in this little like selector thing. You choose the background. So that's our background, right? Just set it right there. So now you can see the walls really nice. It's really easy to see them. They stand out really well. So we're going to go back to objects. We're going to keep placing walls. So you can always click, or you can hold Control and Shift. You can draw walls just freely, right? So you got this nice little snake. I don't actually want the snake though. So to delete objects, you hold Control and you right click, or you can Control Shift and right click hold to delete multiple. So we want to put a border around the whole room made of walls because we don't want the player to leave the room. We want to keep him inside the room where we can manage him. So we're just going to make this little border around the whole room. And I'm just creating these walls really easy by holding Control and Shift and left clicking around, or holding left and moving around the edge. Does that make sense? Everybody got that? We got walls on the room. We don't want the player to leave. We want to keep them boxed in. Make them claustrophobic, right? Keep them in. Don't want them to move. So we're just going to place some walls around, just kind of make it interesting for the player. Because the player is going to be in this room. He's going to walk around. He's going to find coins. It's going to be great. So now we're going to get this player, right? So to change objects that we're placing, we go over to this left panel here. We click in this box, click player. And you just want to place the player somewhere that he fits. He's not going to align to the grid the same way that the walls do, but that's okay. We want him to be like this. So these walls, they fit right into these boxes, right? So that's great because it perfectly fits on these walls, or on the edges of the room. But the player, he's kind of offset, which is kind of weird, kind of annoying. But it's not really a big deal to have him off because he's going to be able to move freely. If we wanted him to move on a grid, we could always move him down by changing the snap size back to 32. Oops, that's 62. That's 63. 32, right? So now we can move him down because this snap here only changes what you are currently editing, right? So like if you place a new object, then it'll snap to the grid. Or if you move around an object by dragging it around, it'll snap to the grid, but it won't mess with these walls. So you're in good shape there. You can move around. If you want to place it right on the grid, you can. And so we want to do that also here when we make coins. So go ahead and switch to coins there. We do coins like that because they also are snapped to the center. And so if we didn't put the grid snap to 32, then that would be kind of weird. But basically, you just place some coins around, make it interesting. Get a nice little coin in there. Yeah, just play some good old coins, right? Got some good coins. So that is our basic room. You can click this to turn off the grid or make it look like you don't have the grid on. It'll still work. But anyway, so you got this nice room, right? So that's where all of your objects and everything are going to do stuff. So we're going to save. And now we're going to play the game. Yeah, so just click this little triangle up here to play the game. It's right there. I clicked a little early. It's a green triangle. If you click the red one, it takes a little longer. It's a little weird. It's debugging, but we're not going to cover that right now. So basically, you play this game, right? So you see everything, and it's all fun stuff, but you can't do anything. We didn't tell the player to do anything, right? We can't like press keys to make them move around, or you can't collect coins or anything. It's not going to do anything with the walls. So basically, we're just going to close that. That's kind of a piece of junk, right? We just made a little pretty picture, and that's all we did. So we want to close this compile thing. It doesn't really matter. I mean, you don't really have to close it, but it's nice to have screen space. So next, we are going to add code. Isn't everybody excited? Yeah. So we're going to go into the player. We're going to do all of the stuff inside the player object for this tutorial because it all fits in the player object and it's great. It's not really like right or wrong to put everything in the player object. It's just like, it just works. It works well. So basically I'm going to explain how all this stuff works. It's really complicated looking, but after a little while I might get the hang of it. So basically in each object it has its own set of events, right? So an event is basically like something that happens in the game. So like if you press a key, then there's an event for that. You can click add event down here and look at all the events. So like there's the create event where the player is created. That's like whenever the room starts, if the player is in that room, then it'll run the create script for that player object. It's individual to each object. So you can change it for each object and it'll do different things. You have like mouse events. You can click in there and you can see all these different things. And like destroy, whenever the player like dies or something, you can destroy them and do whatever code's there. Just whatever. Like key presses and key releases and keyboard. So keyboard, it's like if you hold down like W, for example, then you want your player to like keep moving upward, right? You don't want your player to just move up once and then stop. So like key press would make the player move up once and then stop. Whereas if you held the button, then keyboard will trigger at every frame, right? So you can change the frame rate in the room, but we're not going to cover that at the moment. We'll check that out in a little bit if I remember. But like basically GameMaker runs by default at 30 frames per second, meaning that 30 times each second all of this stuff they're about to put in the game runs. So first event we want to make is the create event. So you see up here that create is highlighted. So in every event there's a bunch of actions that it does. So it's just like really simple like things that it does whenever this event occurs. So like on creation we can set a bunch of things or we can make the player move somewhere or do whatever we want. But that's all over here. So these are the actions that you can take. And they have a bunch of different tabs, right? It's just like various things. And you got squares, right? These squares do things. And then the octagons right next to this is under control. We're about to do this. But the octagons, they are like questions. They're conditional statements. So like an octagon is basically asking a question, and if the question is true, then the action right after it will trigger. But we're going to look at that in just a second. So first thing we want to do in the create event is we want to control here. We're going to go to this control tab and drag in a variable square. So that'll set variable. Drag that in here. Nice and easy. Really nice drag and drop functionality. So a variable, I don't know if you guys know what a variable is, but I'm going to explain it real quick. So a variable is like, it's like a variable in math. So it's just something that you can set, and you can change it, and you can use it in other stuff. So like, for example, what we're doing here is we're making the player's move speed a set factor. So like, basically, whenever you do this set variable, it's like let x equal whatever in math. You just like set up a number to be named something, pretty much. And it's a changing number based on what you set it. So we're going to set the move speed, move underscore speed for the player to, let's do something spicy today, okay? We had 3 in that little demo, but we're going to do 5. We're going to make him fast, right? He's Sonic. We want Sonic speed. But anyway, we're going to click OK. So all that does just sets that variable move speed to 5. Really straightforward stuff. And so now, I'll explain, okay, let me tell you what move speed actually is. So move speed is going to be like how fast the player moves whenever you're making him move. It's not like the player always moves at this speed. GameMaker doesn't just magically detect what move speed does, right? It's just a variable. It's like we do with this variable what we want to do with this variable. And so right now, we want the variable to make the player move if we're holding down the keyboard, right? So this is what we're going to do. We're going to click Add Event, create a new event. We're going to keyboard, because as I've explained before, we want the player to move all the time when you're holding down a key. We're going to go up to left. And we could also do like letters. We could do letters, you know, blah, blah, blah. But we're going to just do left, right, up, and down for simplicity. So we're going to start with right. Actually, you know what? We're going to start with whatever you clicked already, because I figured you already clicked something. But we're going to start with right. And so while he's holding down right, what we want to do is make the player move, right? So the simplest way to make him move is to make him like jump to a different position, right? So the player in this room here, in the room, the player is at this current position, right? Because he's centered on his sprite, so he's right there. That's where GameMaker sees the player, right there. And so if we tell the player to jump to a different position, that basically means we want the player to just move somewhere, right? So we want him to move. And we're going to make him move like over here. No, we don't want to do that. So what we're going to do, we're going to go in here. On keyboard right, we're going to make the player move. So we're going to click up to this move, right? It's pretty straightforward. We're going to use this little image here. This is jump to position. So we're going to drag that in. Jump to position moves him to wherever you specify. So when he's moving right, we want to get this move. We want move speed for how much he wants to move, right? So this basically is saying the player is going to move to the right, move speed distance, right? Move speed is a variable. We set it to 5. So he's going to move right 5 pixels. And we want to check relative, because what relative does is it like sends the letter to your grandma about how he moves. No, that doesn't actually do that. Basically, relative, it's like instead of moving him to the absolute position, like move speed and 0, which is just 5, 0, so that he'd be like in one random spot and we can't move from that spot. We move him relative to himself, right? So move speed makes him move right 5 spaces, like we were talking about.
Move speed you define as 5, which
Right.
is 5 pixels
Right.
per frame.
Right.
Is that how that works?
Right. So like this will happen every frame that you're holding down right. Good call. And so we're moving to the right, move speed distance every frame. So we're going to click OK. And so that's the basic idea that we're going to do for all of the directions. So we're going to do that right here. We're going to click Add Event, keyboard left, right? And then we want to drag in, jump to position again in this move column, right? Drag it in. And then we're going to move, when we're moving left, we want to move negative move speed. That easy, right? You just click the little minus. Boom, done. Nice and easy. But don't forget, send a letter to your grandma. Click OK. Okay, so here's where it gets a little complicated if you've never done games before. So keyboard, we're going to do down first. So when we're moving down, we're going to jump to a position, right? So basically, what you want to do for down is you want to change his Y position, right? So you want to do negative move speed and send a letter to your grandma. But hey, there's a little thing that's kind of weird in GameMaker. This is not correct. So in GameMaker, the X and Y axes, they're a little weird, right? So the X-axis, it's right, just like you would expect, but the Y-axis is actually moving down. It's pointing down from the top left of the screen. So that's kind of weird, and it's hard to get used to at first, but you'll get the hang of it. You just got to learn how to use that. It's kind of weird, but that's just kind of how like Windows deals with Windows. So that's how we're going to do it. So in GameMaker, we don't want down to move him negative move speed, because that'll move him upward, right? Negative is this way. We want to move him positive move speed. Relative, remember, send a letter to your grandma. All right, so then we go keyboard, keyboard up. And we'll also jump to position. And this up position is going to be negative move speed. Right? Relative, send a letter to your grandma. Because remember, when we're moving up, we want to go negative up here. Right? So like the player's here, we're going to move that way. So I'm going to click OK. Alright, so now we got basic movement, we're going to save. We're going to click this play button again, run the game. Because we want to move. We're excited. We want to move right now. We'll move. Good stuff. It's going to load. Takes a little bit. Okay, that's really annoying. Oh, okay, thank you. I will next time. Appreciate it. So, the player, if you move left, right, up, and down, is going to move. Yay, he's really fast, and he's all good, and he's like Sonic speed, but he moves through walls. Oh no. Why did you do that? Uh-oh. Look at that. Alright, we didn't tell him to not move through walls. We just told him to move whenever he wants to. So now he can move outside the room. No, he's running away. Ah, where is he? Anyway, so basically we want to not do that because that's dumb. Right? You don't want the player to move through walls. So the way we want to do that is we want to ask one of those questions we were talking about. So the question for this time, we want to make sure the player does not move into the wall. So like, we want to make sure that there's not a wall where the player is trying to move. So to do that, first we're going to go into the wall. Yay, there's a little bit that we do with the wall. Yay, exciting wall. So go into the wall, you click solid. Just check that. Solid, it doesn't really like naturally mean anything. It just is it's just something you can check so that GameMaker detects if you can move there or not based on what we tell it. Right? So that's just like really straightforward. Just check it. Yeah, it's just a good way of keeping track of what stuff you can move through and what stuff you can't. So like for all these directions, we want to make another conditional, right? So we want to go into control, and then we want to click this little octagon at the top left of this box, right? This is check empty. So we're going to drag this up above the player, or moving to position. Up above movement, we want to do this conditional. If a position is collision free, so like if there's not a wall where we're trying to move, then move there. And we're trying to move left here, so we're going to do negative move speed, right, to the left. Good stuff. See, objects, only solid. What that means is if there isn't a solid wall to our left, then we're going to move there. We can also set it to the wall. Oh, we can't do that actually. So good thing we did this. We got to check solid, right? And we want to do relative because we're sending a letter to our grandma. Click OK. So, as I said, these little octagons, that's a conditional. It's just a question. And so, if a position is collision free, if to the left of us is collision free, if the answer to that question is yes, then do whatever's after it. Straightforward, very simple. And so, if it's open to our left, then move there. Real simple. So we're going to do that with up, right, and down also. We're going to do that. We're going to drag this little question mark in here, or the little dotted circle. And up, we're going to do negative move speed, relative, and only solid objects. All right, just like before. Now it takes slow. We move right, and drag this in, the same octagon with the dotted circle. Moving right, so we're going to do, basically, like if you can't remember exactly what we're trying to do here, you can look at this jump to position. It's the same thing. So it's move speed in X and 0 and Y. So just move speed. Right? Good stuff. Send a letter to your grandma every time. Not every time, but every time for this. So down, going to do the same thing. 0, move speed. So we're going to type in here, 0, move speed, relative. And then that's it. That's all you need to not move into walls. So we're going to play the game. GameMaker automatically saves every time we play, so we don't really need to save it. Once again, if you get any behind at all, you can ask Chris for help or just raise your hand. We can talk to you about something. If you have any questions, feel free to interrupt or whatever. So basically, at this point, we can move around, right? Yay, we can move around, but we can't move into walls. Look at that. Isn't that exciting? Yay. But there's a problem. He's not actually touching the wall. Do you see that? Right here. He's not actually touching the wall. There's a little bit of space there. And we don't want that space. Because what if we have a little corridor that's like this space right here, up here? We can't go in there because there's space. And he's 64 pixels, and the walls are also 64 pixels. there's 64 space, and he can't get into that space. So we need to change our game a little more to do that. So we're going to close that. I'm going to go back into right, for example. I'm going to keep it right because that's straightforward, really easy in the X position. So since this question, the answer to this question is no when we're trying to move into a wall, like when we're right next to a wall, the answer to the question, if to the right of us is open, is false, right? There's something there, so we can't move into it. And so we can't jump there. But the reason that it doesn't actually move into the wall, or like move right up against the wall, is that we're not telling it to move less than our current move speed if there's something there, right? So like, if he's like almost right up to the wall, but he's not quite there yet, then he's not going to move this little extra bit to get into contact with the wall. So what we're going to do is we're going to tell it to do that. So we're going to introduce this little else, right? So in other, in control, we drag in an else. So else basically just says, if the answer to this question up here is no, then do whatever else that it says, right? So actions, these little questions, they only apply to the next block, right? So this question applies to this little thing, and then this question will apply to the next little thing that we put there. So since it is not position free, like if yes, then jump to position, right? We're going to move freely. But if there's something there, then we want to move into contact with that thing. So we're going to go up to move here, move. And then we want to use this little symbol right here, move to contact. It's a little square. I'm going to just drag that right up there, right under else. Move to contact. So basically this moves the player in the direction with the maximum distance. Very simple stuff against whatever you want, solid objects or all objects. And so we need to feed it a direction every time. So I have a little drawing here of the unit circle, nice and pretty. That's a circle, look at that. So basically we only move in 4 directions, right, based on what we're holding down. Also, these events, multiple of these events can happen at one time. So like that's why we can move diagonally. You can make it not move diagonally, but that's a little different than what we're doing here. But that's why we only have 4 directions, right? So 0, 90, 180, and 270, just like the unit circle has always been. So the direction here is 0, right? We're moving into contact when we're turning right. When we're moving right, we want to move in the direction 0, because that's right, to maximum of move speed, right? Because we don't want like, if something weird goes wrong, then, and we're like really far away from the block, and then it says move to contact, and we don't set a maximum, then it's going to like move us, and it's going to teleport us like way into the distance, and we don't want that. It shouldn't happen with this like really straightforward, really simple movement code that we have. It's like really fail-safe, but just in case like you kind of mess something up or like there's a little bug, then it might teleport if you don't set this right. So that's what we're going to do. And we'll click OK. And we're going to do the same thing with all the others, right? We got else, and we got moved in contact. So left, we're going to go to control here. We're going to drag in else. We're going to go back to move. We're going to drag in move to contact. And left is direction 180. Maximum of move speed against solid objects. So another way that we can do that, we can click this, right? We click the else, and we hold shift, and we click this move to contact. And we hold control and click C and copy it, right? Or you can right click and copy. And you go into up, and then you paste it, right? You just control V or you right click paste. But alas, GameMaker puts it above the last block, which is really annoying. But all you gotta do is just drag this block up here. And you just reorder them. So if the position is collision free, you jump there, else, move to contact in direction, oh, that's the wrong direction. So up direction is 90. So we're gonna move 90. And then we're gonna do the same thing with down, right? Just go to down event, click here, and paste, and move this back up there. Right, has everybody got that? It's pretty straightforward. You can copy and paste actions, good stuff. And then down is 270. We're going to put 270 in there. And then we are going to play the game. So does everybody get that? Does that all make sense to everybody? Got that running? All right. So we are going to play it, and we're going to move around, and it's great. We touch the walls. Yay. See, look at that. We can go right in these little cracks. Right in there, just like we weren't before. We're touching everything, and it's all good stuff. But now we're going to fix the problem that we have with coins. We can't get them. Like, what kind of game is this? You can only move around, you can't get coins. What? Like, that's the point of this game. So we're gonna close it. We're gonna make some interaction with coins. So in GameMaker, what we wanna do for colliding with coins is we wanna add another event. That's right, we got down here, add event. Click that, click collision. So collision is just whenever two things touch each other. Whenever they overlap, actually, it's not when they touch each other. Coin. So in the coin, whenever we touch it, what we want to do is we want to go into main one and drag in this little recycling bin. And that's going to destroy it. Destroy the coin. But the thing is, if all we do is drag this in, then it's going to destroy us, right? Applies to self. So applies to is just this little box that tells us what this little action applies to, right? So like we say self, then it's going to destroy the player. And we don't want the coins to kill the player. That's not nice. We want enemies to kill the player. So we want to click other, right? Other, basically just, other is kind of weird, but anyway, other is dependent on the event that you're in. So like we're in the touching with a coin event. So when we click other, it'll destroy the coin that we're touching. If we clicked object and we click coin, then that would destroy every coin that exists. And we don't want that either, because that makes the game too easy. So when we click other, that'll just destroy that one coin that we touched. Nice and simple. But then we want to do something else, right? We want the player to have a little bit of incentive, a little drive. So we're going to tell him how many coins he's collected. That's pretty exciting. So we're going to go in here, and we're going to make a little count for how many coins he has. So we're going to go into score. GameMaker has its own score built into GameMaker functionality. Really easy to do. So you just have this little score tab. You drag in this little box that says set score. I don't understand these little balls. If anybody can explain them to me, I would love that, but I have no idea why that's the little image for score. You want to set the score to 1, and you want to send that to your grandma. So basically, sending it to your grandma, relative, means you're just going to add 1 to the score. You're going to add whatever's in this box. So if you want to add like 7, that's great. If you run into a coin, then you get 7 coins. Or you can make like a different coin stack object. And then whenever you run into the coin stack, you get 7 points, right? Yeah. But we want to set that to 1 because we're only touching 1 coin. So we have a new problem. Now our problem is that we have no way to see the score that we have. And that's no fun either, because it's as if we don't have a score. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw it on the screen. So basically, we're going to click Add Event. So we're going to add this new draw event. We're going to use Draw GUI. So Draw GUI basically just draws something to the screen. Do you have a question? Can we help you out?
How do you add the event for when it's touching the coin?
Yeah. Do you have the object coin?
To go to that, the coin?
Do you have one? Right. Okay, awesome. So you just go to the player, right? And you click Add Event. And you click Collision. And then you click the coin. It should show up there. Pretty straightforward. Is that good? Awesome. All right. So back in Draw GUI, we've got, so Draw GUI, like, it's just basically a draw event that like adds to the screen whatever you tell it to add to the screen. So we don't want to set the score, and we don't want to ask what the score is, right? We want to draw the score to the screen. And there's another handy dandy event for that, and that's just this little draw score, this little green box with the score in it. So basically, a green outline box means draw something, whatever it tells you to draw. So you want to draw the score. You want to put it at 0, 0, right? That's the top left, like we were talking about, right? Oh, that's wrong. Over here, right? Top left corner of the screen. We're going to say, draw the score, and it has a caption built into it. And we can set the caption to whatever we want. And we're cool, so we're going to say coins, right? Coins. Woo! Yeah, good stuff. And we don't want that to be relative because that will make it at the player's position. And we want it on the top left corner of the screen. Okay. And we're going to close that because that's annoying. And we're going to play the game. Yeah. We're going to see in the game that we can get the coins and everything. It's all exciting, and you see everything. It's like a really straightforward, basic game, but it works, and it does stuff. Yeah, good stuff. So, right, you move around, you can touch the walls, you grab that coin. Look at that. You got 1 coin. Yeah, that's good stuff. So you can move around. But the text is white, and you can't really see the text very well, right? Like, we don't want that. We want to be able to see the text really well. Oh, there's a little problem, but we're not going to deal with that. Anyway, you can design levels around that, or you can just change the code, but we're not going to do that today. That's a little complicated. So we don't want the player to barely be able to see this coins text. we want him to see it clearly. We're going to close this. In Draw GUI, what we can do is we can set the color that the draw event draws stuff with. So to do that, we go into Draw, that's down at the bottom tab. I'm going to draw that. I'm going to click Draw. And then we go to this little palette right here, right? This little square outlined palette, color palette. So we're going to drag that and we're going to put it above the score variable. Right, so we got this color. We're going to change the color to whatever we want. What color do you guys want to do the color?
Blue, red.
All right. Oh, blue, red. We can do purple. Perfect. Look at that. All right. So basically, what this does is it sets the color and then it draws the score, right? So actions, they go in numbered order like that. So you got action 1, you got action 2. Just like with the keyboard and all that stuff, just moves down this little list of actions. So that'll set the color to purple and then draw the score. So we're going to check that out. So we're going to move around, we're going to get some coins, right? So you can see that purple. It doesn't really show up against that black background, but that's okay. We'll fix that in a little bit. And I mean, I'm sure we're all programmers here, so like, I'm sure we don't have quite the best like visual design abilities. So you can always talk to your artist about what color to make the text, because purple is not showing up well either. But either way, you grab all the coins and you're like, yay, I grabbed all the coins. And so now, let's pretend like our game is fully done, right? All the functionalities in the game. You can grab the coins, you can move around, you can hit the walls and everything. That's really exciting. So now the animator, or the image person, has made all the little pictures for you. Yay! So now we're going to put them in the game. Right, so this is like kind of late into the game. Or like as the art person gives you these art pieces, you can put them into the game too. But anyway, what we're going to do here is we're going to make the player, right? We're going to go to the player. And this player is a bunch of different images, remember? So what we're going to do is we're going to click Edit Sprite. We're going to click File. We're going to click Create from Strip, just like before, right? Just like before. Everything we did before, it applies now. So click up one level, right? You go to the final. You want to get Walk Down, because that shows, excuse me, that shows the player really well. Click Open. All right, and it'll have all these little setups for you. It's all just the same. You can see a little preview. The guy's going real fast. But anyway, that's good. Click OK. And click Check. And we got to recenter that for some reason. I don't know why. It doesn't really make sense, but we got to recenter it anyway. Click OK. You go into the coin. You do the same thing, except you can just load sprite for this one, right? Because it's not like a sprite strip or a sprite sheet. And for some reason, that origin doesn't change. I don't understand GameMaker sometimes, but that works. So we're good there. And then we go to the wall. Do the same thing. Get this nice little brick. We go to the background. Do the same thing for the background. We're going to load up this grass. Right? So a good thing to do is to name your background. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do back grass. Right? So that's good stuff. And we can save that. And now we see this back grass has changed, but everything works perfectly in the room. So you can change the name. You can change the name of your background after you put it in the room, and it'll still work just fine. But, so yeah, everything's all final and stuff. Yay. So now we're going to play the game again. We're going to see it in its full developed state. We're all excited, right? This is great stuff. We're super happy. Everything's working just right. We play it. And the player is like really fast and twitchy and weird. So that's really sad. We're going to move around. We can see everything works just fine. Yay. Right? Everything's working. It's all good. We can actually get this coin now. But the reason we can get this coin now is that the player is a little smaller than he used to be. GameMaker automatically detects the size of the sprite, and it changes the sprite's bounding box based on that. So like the bounding box is just the place where it looks like it's colliding with stuff, right? So like that's kind of like its space, its volume. So you can move into here now because the little computer guy is a little bit thinner than the box. So yeah, we're in good shape there. We can get the coins. We're all happy, but he's all twitchy and stuff. So basically, I'm going to wrap up now because we got an hour, but I'm going to keep moving. I'm going to upload this online. You guys are welcome to stay if you'd like, follow along, but this is the end of the hour, and we kind of set him for an hour, so that's the time slot we got. So wrapping up, we see here, let's just do a little bit with the room, like I told you we were going to do earlier. So I'm going to turn that off. That's pretty ugly. we can see here the speed. Speed is the FPS for the room, frames per second. So if we wanted our game to be like elite hacksaws stuff, we could do like a million, a little bit of text in there, a little bit of text speed. But we don't want that because that's too high. And GameMaker can't even do that. So we're gonna do 60, right? 60 is a good amount. That's what most monitors refresh at and stuff. So that's good. You can do this room like first room. That basically works. So this is all in settings, right? The settings of the room just have a bunch of nice little things. So you can change the width and the height of the room. We can do that. Let's change it to another nice round number. That's a multiple of 64. Where's the calculator? There we go. So let's do like 64 times 20. I could have done that in my head. Anyway, 1280. Yay. So like we got a little bit bigger of a room, right? So we can go into objects. We can get this wall. We can delete this stuff, right? Control, Shift, right click, or right hold, and change the snap to 64 by 64. And place more walls. Yay. Control, Shift, hold left. Right, so you just make more walls. You got a bigger room. Yay. And GameMaker will automatically resize the room for you to do that. But anyway, that kind of basically wraps up what we did today. We made this nice. Oh, it's nice and fast. I forgot. We changed it to 60 FPS. So now we're going Sonic speed, guys. Congratulations. We are now Sonic, but computer edition. It's like Sonic, what was it, like DX or something with the robot Sonic? Mecha Sonic, anybody? Yeah? Okay. All right. Yeah, so like, we're really fast and we're cool. But anyway, that's like...
You could real quick show us how to make an executable.
Yes, yeah, that's definitely important. Should have done that. Okay. So, once you're done making your game, right, or like once you want somebody to test it out, then you click this button up here. So this button basically turns all of your GameMaker code stuff into like a little program that you can run on your computer separately from GameMaker. So you click that button, and it'll show this little window. And there's 3 ways that you can do this. You can save as type Windows NSES installer. That's like really annoying and really hard for people to do because it's like this nice official looking installer for your game. But we don't need that because there's like nothing to install. You just make a little game. So we're going to make a single runtime executable. We can also do a zip, but that's like the same thing as an installer, but it doesn't install it. It just like packs the game into a zip file, and it's kind of pointless. So we have single runtime executable. Yeah, so we're going to put that not in this random folder. We're going to find a good place for that. Yeah, we're going to find a good spot. That in programming. All right, perfect. So we made it. We click save. GameMaker can do all this stuff in the compiler, and we can pretend like we're typing that. Good stuff, right? We're like hackers. We open this little like command prompt window, and it's all great. And we're just like pressing all these buttons, except we didn't actually press anything. So then we would go and find that, and we're gonna get a little inception here, and then we're gonna find that. Where is that? Oh, that was in the programming folder. Okay, so we're gonna go back up here. And that's our game, right? So you just double click the game, and it'll pop open. After 25 minutes of loading, for some reason. Chris, your computer's weird. This shouldn't take this long. I don't know why it's taking this long on Chris's computer. But anyway, basically that's your game. It'll just run. I did not break your computer. The tutorial did this too. So yeah, now we got a game running at 60 FPS. It's really nice looking, right? It's smooth. Does it look smooth on the projector? Yeah, good. So yeah, you got a nice game. So before we move on to the next portion, I'm going to make sure we like do a nice little wrap up so anybody who wants to leave can. So do you have any other questions from the crowd? Yeah, what's up? Okay, what's going on?
It is only good for it as a single image instead of a sprite strip. You want sets to strip.
Okay. Okay, yeah. So when you go into the player, you click Edit Sprite, go up to File, you click Create from Strip, right? Just like we did before. You click that, click Open. So the thing you need to do, you need to mess with all these little like parameters here. These little things tell you how GameMaker is going to cut up the image into a bunch of different sprites, right? So it's a bunch of different frames. And basically this is 4x4, or like 4x1, so we do 4 of this, 4 images per row, because we have 4 images in one row. An image width 64, image height 64. You click OK, and it loads it in. And you center it. Did that fix the problem?
Are we required to submit source files for the game jam? Is that like an official thing?
I don't
know what I'm asking.
I do know what you mean. I know what you're asking. I don't think we really need to do that. If you'd like to submit your source files with the game, you can make it one file like we talked about earlier. You can click File, you can click Export Project, really easy. And so it'll make this little compressed GameMaker file in the folder that you specify. Do a little flashy, and then you got that, right? So that's a GMZ file. I don't really know why it's not showing the extension. I guess because Chris has it off. But like you can see it right there. You got GMZ. But basically, you can just open that up in GameMaker and it'll automatically pop it out into a full project. So this is your project folder. Right, the project folder has got all your stuff in it. But basically, this little GMZ, that's just going to open up into a project file, and you can share that. You can zip both of these up into a zip file, right? You can use like 7-zip or whatever. You can just add to archive, but that's not what we need to do right now. So that is all that good stuff. Any other questions? Yeah, okay. So thank you guys for coming. I appreciate it so much. I hope you learned a lot, and I hope this kind of prepares you for the game jam. But one thing we're going to talk about real quick before we do this like kind of official wrap up, we're going to talk about two things: finding help and collaborating with others. So to find help during the game jam, you can talk to Chris or me. We know a little bit of GameMaker, like we kind of know the idea, right? We can get you through everything. And you can also look at the documentation for GameMaker. It's pretty good. There's a little button up here. Click this. You can see this this new window. You can look at the contents. There's a bunch of stuff, right? And you can look at the index. You can search stuff. Just type in move, yay. There's a bunch of stuff. So this stuff isn't going to be very helpful for you because this is code. We didn't cover code, but there's some good stuff in the documentation. You should be able to find some good stuff for yourself. But yeah, it's using GameMaker. I don't know. Actions. Yeah, look at that. See, you got actions right here. Using GameMaker in this contents page. Actions, it'll tell you what all these things do. And main action set 1, main action set 2, stuff like that. And you look at events. You look at the different kinds of objects, I'm sure. I don't know exactly where that is. Paths. See paths and timelines, just all these random things that we didn't cover tonight. You can look at the documentation. Or you can look it up on Google. With a really simple Google search, you just type in GameMaker, how do I animate my character, or whatever, just good stuff like that, because we didn't cover that tonight. But basically that's how you get help. And then collaborating with others in GameMaker, it's kind of hard. GameMaker doesn't really play well with others too well, but what you can do is you can, as I said before, you can export your project, and you can send this to your buddy, right? He's got his own computer. You send that to your buddy, and he can open it, and he can mess with the coin, right? So if you want to make the coin do some fancy stuff where it eats you on 1 second and then doesn't eat you for 5 seconds, then you can do that in the coin or whatever. And then you can send the coin back to your friend, right? You get this file in here. You go into the project. You get this coin.object file. And so this little coin.object file has all of your code in it, right? You just edit with Notepad. You see all this stuff. It does all this stuff in it, right? So I don't know what's going on there, so I'm just going to close that. But anyway, that's what you want to send back to your friend who has the full project. And that friend will be able to right-click objects and click add existing object and pull it back into his game. Or he can change rooms, he can make new rooms, he can make new sprites, he can do whatever he wants. You just kind of have to get them in sync by hand. As I said, GameMaker doesn't play well with others. So that's the general idea. Once again, I appreciate that you guys came out tonight. I hope you do well for the jam. You can prepare the next 2 or 3 weeks, however long it is until the jam. Get really excited for it. But yeah, at the jam you'll make teams. You can kind of get people together beforehand or make the teams there, or do whatever. But the jam is in the CTC starting at room 118. So come down there November 10th and we'll make some games together. Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, TJ.
Yeah, no problem. If you'd like to stick around, we're going to keep going. Or you can head out. Now, it's not rude. Feel free to leave if you want to. I don't mind. But as I said, I'm going to keep recording for this recording so that people can look at it during the game jam.
Quick question.
Yeah.
So you're saying how you could send an object file to your buddy. Where'd you get Or where would you locate that file, like if you wanted to work on a specific object, would you send it to your?
What you do is you go into your project, right? It's like, this is my project folder. You go in there and you like look for whatever thing you want to send to your friends. Like you can send a room to your friend or you can send an object to your friend. You just grab that file and you can like email that to your friend or like do some kind of Dropbox or OneDrive or whatever you need to do to get that sent over. And that's the basics of that. And so your friend can send that object file back after he's done messing with it. Yeah. Any other questions? Awesome. All right. So is everybody up to speed where we are right now? Who wants to keep following along? All right, good stuff. So, do you guys want to take a quick break? I'm going to take a quick break. I'm really thirsty. All right, part 2, the GameMaker Honors Game Jam tutorial. So, next we're going to cover some other things, some other things that actually like make sense and make the game look a lot better. So first things first, right? Our game doesn't have like the player. He just like keeps running, right? He never stops running. He's Sonic speed, but that doesn't really make sense if he's standing still. So we're gonna make him not do that because that's weird, right? So he's just chugging along. So we're gonna close that. We're gonna get him in here. We're gonna do some things. But first things first, what we need to do is we need to put in the other animations for him, right? So he can turn other ways because Liv was nice enough to create some good old pictures for us of a bunch of different directions. So we need to put those into the game. So first thing, we're going to change the name of the sprite player. We're going to change it to player WD for walk down, right? Because he's facing forward, which means that he's going to be walking downwards. So then we're going to create a new sprite. Create sprite. Sprite. Sprite player. Walk up. All right, so we just click edit sprite, file, create from strip, just like before. And then load in this up walking sprite. Make sure all your numbers are right, you know, good stuff. Click OK. Should split it up nice and easy. And then center it. And then do the same with another one. Sprite, player, walk left, edit, file, create from strip, walk left. And that splits up just fine. And check that off, center it. And then create sprite, sprite, player, walk right, edit sprite, file, create from strip, walk right, sprite sheet. Split it up just right. Check that, center that, and then we're good. So we made a bunch of extra sprites. And we don't want the player sprites to be all in their own place, so we're going to drag them next to each other. But this is like still pretty unorganized, right? All these 4 player sprites, we don't need that. So we're going to right click, we're going to click insert group. So we're going to type in sprites, sprite player, yay. So like the player group is basically just a folder. So we're going to drag all these player sprites into the folder. And they're not going in the folder. Oh, there we go. Right, you just drag them in, nice and easy. You can close that, boom. It's like nice and organized, or you can open it. So we're going to leave it open because it's pretty and it makes it look like we did a lot of stuff. That's good. And so then, now we're going to make it so that the player actually uses all these sprites, right? So he's got this walk down sprite, but that's locked in. You can't change that just like in here, because then it'll look different, right? He'll look like he's in the walking up. So we need to change it whenever we move around. But first we're going to make it so that he's not like sprinting all the time. Whenever he's stopped, he's stopped. That's what we're going to do first. So we're going to go into control and create the create event. We're going to make another variable. We're going to call this nm speed. And so this basically just says like how fast his images change. So like right now he's changing really fast, right? He's moving super fast. We don't want that. So we're going to slow down his animation speed. But we're making it a variable so that we can change it when we want it to change. So we're going to set nm speed to 1/2. Actually, we're going to do like 1/4. Yeah, that should be good. So we're going to click OK. So we're making a new variable for that. So this variable, just like the move speed, it doesn't mean anything until we tell it to mean something. And so we're gonna make it mean something by setting a bunch of different things, doing all these different actions, right? I'm sitting down because I'm tired. So, we're gonna go in here, but he's still gonna be tugging right along really fast because we didn't actually make him stop tugging along really fast. This anim speed doesn't actually do anything until we set it to do stuff, like I said. So, now we have to understand that GameMaker has these things called built-in variables. Behind the scenes, GameMaker has a bunch of like variables set up that do a bunch of different things that it tells them to do without you knowing about it. And so you can look at the documentation or you can ask me about these variables. It's just like a bunch of variables with a bunch of arbitrary names that do different things. So we're going to drag in a new variable, set variable. And so you can access these variables just like any other variable. So this variable is called image speed. Image speed is basically how fast the images change from...
I'll need all my greenies for my phone. I'll need all my greenies for my phone.
That's all right. Oh, actually, it's probably in some spam. Anyway, image speed, we're going to set that to 0, right? So, like, image speed is how fast, excuse me, man, how fast you move from one image to the next. We don't want him to move from one image to the next because he's standing still. So we're going to click that, image speed to 0. And so, while he's moving left, we want him to have image speed, right? We want to have him move those frames. And so, in the left event, we're going to do some stuff. So, we are going to, oh, I'm wrong, I'm sorry, I forgot. So, actually what we're going to do, we're not going to do this in left because we're going to have to duplicate code if we do it in left. We're going to have to put the same thing in a bunch of different events, right? Because if we're holding down something, then we're going to basically just set his image speed, but we don't want to do the same thing in a bunch of different events if we don't have to, because duplicating code is annoying. That's wrong. But you don't really have to worry about that too much. But basically, the solution to that is you click Add Event, you click Step, and you click Step. So Step is another type of event. Step basically just runs every frame that GameMaker does stuff, right? So right now we have it set to 60 frames per second. That's what Step. So Step goes 60 frames per second. And so we want to make it so that the player is only moving, he only looks like he's moving when he's actually moving, right? And we don't have a good way of seeing, like testing whether or not the player's moving and all of these things, right? So what do? You just give up? No, you never give up. So we're going to make our own custom question. So that's here, this little question mark, test expression. I'm going to drag this in. So this is where it's going to get a little bit complicated. You got to bear with me. If you've done any coding before, this will be like just like any other coding logic. You're just like making one of these questions, making a conditional. So we're going to say if x does not equal x previous. So this is just saying this little exclamation equals, that's just not equals. So like, oops, x does not equal x previous, right? So if he's moving, that means that his x position is going to be changing. So like x previous is just the variable for his current x position for the previous frame. That's a GameMaker built-in variable, we're just using it. And x is the same way, except it's this way. So right, so now he's going to, this expression will be true if he's changing x position, right? But we also want it to be true if he's changing y position. So we're going to also set up here, we're going to make these little bars, right? These little double bars. So you make a bar, I don't know if you guys know how to make bars, but you make a bar by holding shift and pressing the little key that's like right above enter, or sometimes it's right to the left of backspace. It's just like the backslash, but you hold shift, and it's a bar. You want to do 2 of those, and that means or. So we do x position does not equal the previous x position, or the y position does not equal the previous y position. Right? So that's good stuff. It's a little complicated, but we made it through, right? X does not equal x previous, or y does not equal y previous. It's like either one of these is true, and this will return a yes. This expression will be true. Does that make sense? Question?
Is there an advantage to doing it this way? Is doing a no key pressed event? Because that's another one of the events.
Huh. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, you could do no key and any key. That makes sense. Or no key and then do left, right, up, and down. But The problem there is that,
If you have like a shoot button or something.
right, so like this has good control. It'll make it so that he only looks like he's moving if he's actually moving, right? Whereas if you say no key, then if you're like shooting or if you're doing something else, or if you're like moving, but you're up against a wall so you don't actually move, then he's still gonna look like he's running. So this is how we're gonna do it. And this is a good way to introduce expressions. So that's just a nice little question that we made, custom question. And we're gonna set the variable. If he's moving, then we're gonna set image speed to anim speed. You click tab to get between these things. Tab and shift tab, right? Makes it a little faster for you. Image speed and anim speed. So right, we set up the variable anim speed earlier in create. Anim speed is like how fast we want the player to look like he's moving when he's actually moving. And these numbers, they're kind of arbitrary. It's like, I think basically this says every 4 frames change to the next image. But I'm not actually sure if that's true. You just gotta mess with that number. But basically we're setting the image speed to his animation speed. And then if it's not moving, right, we want to use else to see if he's not moving. We're going to drag in another little variable box for image speed to 0. And we're good there. Right, so does that make sense? Yeah. We take that as a yes. Now I'm going to play the game. And we're going to see that he's not moving. Yay. So now we're going to move around, and he moves, right? You can see, you kind of can see, he's moving a little fast to be able to tell, but he's moving a little bit, right? You can tell kind of there when he's moving left and right. But he's not actually changing between the sprites, like we said earlier. We didn't set it to do that. So we still got to do that. But you can get all the coins, and he's all running, and he's not running, and he's running, and he's not running. Yeah, good stuff. But when he was moving around and then you stopped, if you stopped on the wrong frame, he would stop while it still looked like he was like moving a little bit. So he would just stop while he's in the run animation. And we don't want that. So what we're going to do, we're going to set another variable in this else. So, oh, I am bleeding. All right, now that I'm a little bit edgier because I was bleeding, let's restart. So we had a question, else if. So basically, these little conditionals, all they do is once you say yes on those conditionals, then it just goes to the next thing. If it says no, then it skips that next thing. So what you can do is for else if, you just have this little else, and then you put another conditional. So like, if he's not touching anything right now, like if he's moving, then you do this. If he's not moving, you do else, right? And you do this conditional that doesn't actually make any sense right now. But that's basically it. That's just else if. Does that make sense? Yeah, cool. So what we're going to do is, he was stopping kind of on the wrong frame, right? So we have to set his frame back to his original frame. So that's also in step. When he's not moving, we want to set his position, or his image index, another built-in variable. The image index is just like what frame he's on, right? As we were talking about. So like, when he's walking down, this is image index 0. So like image 0, see image 1, image 2, image 3. Index is 0, so that's the first one. That's the second one, that's the third one, that's the fourth one. So like before, he could stop here, but we're setting it right now so that he can't stop there. He always stops back at image 0. But there's an issue. There's a big problem here. These little conditionals, they only execute the next instruction, right? So that this else only covers this variable set right here. It does not cover this one. So what we need to do is we need to create a block. So we're going to drag these little triangles in here. So basically these blocks kind of, they like pretend like they're one action. So in here in this else, it executes whatever's in this block. And that's 2 conditionals. Does that make sense? It's just like it executes everything inside this else. So that's some good stuff right there. Got that good stuff, right? That whole thing. And so now we can play it, and he'll stop in the right position, or in the right frame. Humpty Dum. Hey, GameMaker Studio, yay. So he moves around and he stops. Move around and he stops. Move around and he stops. Move around and he stops. Yay, he's always on the right frame. Let me close that. Don't need that anymore. So now we're gonna make it so that he changes sprites. And that's pretty straightforward. We're gonna use these blocks, we're gonna use else. Actually, we already used else. So we don't need else. But yeah, we wanna change the sprite. And the way to do that is we're gonna use another action, excuse me. But we wanna do that in the keyboard events. So we're gonna go into the left event, we're gonna go in here, we're gonna do main one tab, go into this little Pac-Man looking thing. So that changes the sprite. So if you're moving, then you want to change the position to the sprite for left. So we're going to do left sprite, sub image. The sub image is which frame it changes it to. And we want it to just keep it on the same frame just because that's cool. So we're going to do image index. And then the speed that we want to set it to is the same speed that it's currently going. So we're going to do image speed. All right, we already covered those. Those are just built-in variables, nice and easy. And click OK after we do all that. All right, good stuff. But yeah, we want to make blocks for here too. So we're going to control, and we're going to do these little blocks. So if position is collision free, it's all right. If there's nothing to the left of us, then we're going to change to the sprite that's left, and we're going to jump. And so we're setting it to the current image index to make it so that it does not mess with the animation, right? We want to do these two things to make sure it doesn't mess with the animation. If we set this to 0, or we set this to 1 or something, then it would always reset that every time you're holding left. So it would always, you'd never animate, it just wouldn't work. So click OK with that. So that's good. And then we're going to do the same kind of thing over with the other events. So we're going to copy this, right? Like we did before. Copy, we're going to shift and click and copy it. And then to the up, I'm going to click jump to position and then paste it in. And do a close block there. Change this to the player up. Right? Just like we did before with the other ones. Block, player walk up, and then block. And right, we want to do the same kind of thing. Paste that in. Put this closing block there. And then move right. And then do the same thing down. Paste it in. Put this little closing thing here. Change that to the player walking down. We got all of them. All right, so that was straightforward enough, right? Play the game. Wait a sec here. GameMaker Studio, yeah. So we're gonna move around, and you see it changes. Yay! So everybody understand all that stuff. That's good stuff, yeah. So it changes. You can move around. It changes. Yay! Yay! But there's a caveat here. There's something wrong. We can move up to these walls, right? And he touches the walls, and it's all great. But then, if we try to move up or down when we touch this wall, he's gonna get stuck. And now you can't move at all, and he's stuck there forever. And that's sad, and we don't want that. So the problem here is that it changed the collision box based on the sprite, right? And so the collision box for the left and right sprite is thinner for the collision box for the up and down sprite, just based on how Liv made them. So what we need to do is close this, and we're going to go change that. So all of the sprite data is in the sprite itself. So we're going to go to sprite, walk down. So right, this is what we want to do. This is the biggest collision box that we have. So I want to make sure to copy this collision box. So we're going to click modify mask. So the mask is this little bounding box that I was talking about. So in here you get another little window that's just this really complicated stuff. It's like blah, 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 all this stuff. Not important right now. But what we want to do is we want to look at manual. So bounding box. We want to change this to manual. So we're going to set these numbers to the same numbers for every sprite that we have for the player. So 2, 0, 61, and 63. We want to remember those numbers because if we don't get them right, then he's going to get stuck, just like we were talking about. 2, 0, 61, 63. We're going to change that for all the players. Walk up, modify mask, manual, 2, 0, 61, 63. Okay, so walking up is good. He's right, so we're done with him. Walk left, modify mask, manual, 2, 61. I'm sorry. 61. Oh, I must turn off. keys. Yeah, there we go. 2, 0, 61, 63. That's a 0. All right. So that's right now. Okay. Okay. And then walk right and do the same thing. It's kind of repetitive, kind of annoying. There are different ways to do this, but this is the easiest, straightforward way without any code. So that's how we're going to do it. Now we're going to play the game. And we'll see. We can't get stuck in walls anymore. Yay! So, unfortunately, there's a problem here that you can't move right into the wall. It's really annoying. It's really weird looking. Don't like that. So there are 2 solutions to this problem. You can code it so you move out of the wall whenever you get stuck in the wall, which is something we're not going to cover today. Or you can get your artist to change the looks of the sprite, which we're also not going to cover today. So yeah, we're stuck with that for now. But it looks pretty good still, right? You can move around, good stuff. We're just gonna blame everything on live whenever we see her next. So close that. We're in good shape here, right? So we made our animation, the player looks good, everything looks good. So that's all nice. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna make it so we can only see part of the screen. Right, so right now you can see all of the screen all at the same time. And the game is pretty easy because of that, right? None of the coins are hidden from your eye. You can just see everything, walk right to it. We don't want that. So we're going to go into the room, and we are going to restrict the amount of space that the player can see. And to do that, we're going to go in here. We're going to go to Views. It's called the View, right? So View is just a little box that is what you see in the game. We're going to click Enable the use of views. This checkbox, very important. And then this checkbox, visible when room starts, very important. So now you see this nice little thicker white line right here. So that thicker white line is what the view looks like. So the view is this big old box. And that's not how big we want it. We want it to be smaller than that. So we're going to do I don't know, let's do 400. No, that's too small. Let's do 500, 400. Right, so that's what we would see in game. Right, about this amount of space. That's what we want. We want the player to not be able to see too much, right? But we also need to change the port on screen. So the port on screen means where the view is going to draw in the window. And we don't want it to use all of the space of the window that we had before because that's ugly. That'll stretch and all that stuff. Excuse me. So instead we're going to do port on screen to 1000 by 800. So what that's going to do is that's going to make it double the view size for what we see, right? It's going to keep the view in room is what's going to draw onto the screen. But port on screen is how big the view is going to be for our window size, right? So that's good stuff. And it'll double the size so we can see everything in nice detail. And we want to change the object following to object player. So object following basically makes it so that the view will follow the player around wherever he goes, and that's good. But there is one problem that we have. Whenever you just leave it default like this, there's all these values right here. They do various things. But whenever you leave these values default, it'll only follow the player around when he gets to the edge of the screen. It'll move with the player there. But if he's in here, he's just gonna walk around. And I mean, we could leave it like that, and that's great. But we want to change that because we want to make it so that the player always stays in view. So we want to change H border for that. This is horizontal border and vertical border. So we're going to change that from 32, which means the player will move the view when he's 32 or less from the edge. We're going to change that to 1000 because he's never going to be less than 1000 outside the view, right? Because our view is 500 width. So that's good. So let's stick with it. So let's check that out. Loading up. So, all right, it's going to look like this, right? It's going to follow the player around. It's going to look really good. All right, so now we're moving around, right? That's good stuff, right? The view looks really nice. And it doesn't follow the player at the edge of the screen, but that's okay, because we don't want to make it render black or something. That's going to look ugly. So that looks really good, right? Well, it's almost looking really good, because it looks a little bit blurry. I don't know if you guys can see that. You might be able to see it on your screen if you're following along. There's a little bit of blur. That's because when we enlarge the screen, it has to figure out how to draw in between the pixels that it's already got there. And what it's doing by default is it's kind of blending the pixels between pixels. So we're going to change that because we want this game to look nice and pixely. So we're going to go into global game settings. This basically is just a way to change a bunch of random stuff that affects the game. And so we're going to go to Windows. And this is the little caption that you can put at the top of the screen. Right? So like on the Windows bar, you can click like HGJ 17 coins, right? Yay. That's good stuff. We're going to make a little exclamation point because we're excited. And then you can click graphics right here, the side tab. And then you uncheck interpolate colors between pixels. So there's a lot of good stuff here. There's a lot of different things that you should check out, but we're mainly interested in interpolate colors between pixels for right now. So click OK. So that basically turns off that blurring between the pixels that I was talking about. And we could check that out, but we're just going to keep moving. Basically, it's just going to look like this. It's going to keep it nice and sharp, right? But yeah, we're going to keep moving because this is taking a while. I don't want to keep you guys forever. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to make another room, right? So like the game is pretty one-dimensional, right? You just get these coins and you're done. There's like no celebratory fanfare or anything, and that's kind of sad. Oh no! I forgot to put sounds in the game. Well, sorry to people who weren't here. Oh well, I'll be able to help them turn the jam. So we're going to do sounds real quick. We're going to change course a little bit. We're not going to do rooms yet. We're going to make some sounds. So you want to right-click sound and create sound. And then this is going to be the sound for the coin. So we're going to do sound for the coin. Sound coin. You open up. You find a coin here. And you go coin sound. So that's good. You click OK. And you right-click sound. You click create sound. You do music because we have music too. Yay! Alright, so we have a coin sound, we have music, that's all we got. We're going to work with it. We're going to make it sound good with what we got. So, right now we have those sounds loaded into the game, but they don't actually do anything. They never play. So we need to make them play. So we're going to go to Object Player, again, because we do everything in the player, because it's cool. Then we go into Main 1, and in here you got all these sounds, right? This is the sound stuff you want. So you do this little box for the sound, which does just play sound. So we're going to make it play the music at the create event for the player. So it'll play the music when the player starts up. And we want it to loop, right? So whenever the music's over, it'll start up again. Okay, that's good. Yeah, click in this, like you make a sound by clicking right click, create sound, right? And then it'll open up this thing. And you click this little folder. Sorry, that was a little fast, my bad.
Yeah, I've loaded the sounds.
Alright. Oh, how do you make it go?
Yeah.
That's back in the player object.
Oh,
So like remember all the interactions in the game happen in the objects.
alright.
So for the player, we go into the create event, and we play sound music, that's in main 1. It's this little thingy right here, the little square. I'm gonna make it loop. And then we want to make the coin play when we touch the coin. So you drag this little sound in here in the coin event, the collision with the coin. You set the sound of the coin. And you don't want it to loop, because if it does, then you're going to break your ears. We don't want that. That doesn't sound fun. So that's good. So, sorry to the other guys, I forgot, but there's the sound. Now we're going to make multiple rooms. Yeah. So, we're going to just duplicate this room because it's nice and easy. We can just change things in here. So you right click room 0, you click duplicate. Yeah, so now you have this second room. So we're going to take all this stuff out of the room because we don't want it. We want to change the room, right? Here, hold shift, control, and right click stuff, or like hold right click on stuff. And just delete everything. Yay. Yay, delete everything. Alright, and then you go into objects. Place your walls, right, just like we were doing before. Just make some good stuff. Yeah, that's a good wall. Good map, okay. And then we play some coins. Actually, I don't care about that. I'm gonna play some coins, real quick. Yeah, that's good. Alright. But now, nothing's gonna happen. We didn't tell the game when to change rooms. So, to make a change rooms, we're gonna go back into the player. Right, so all the interactions in the game happen in the player right now. All of them happen in objects always. So like, go into the player, and so the time that we wanted to change rooms is when you get all the coins, right? So you want to do that in the collision with the coin. So we're going to go into main 2, I think. Nope, main 1. Main 1, and we're going to add some new events. So first we're going to have this conditional. So this little conditional up in the bottom right here, this little octagon, it's like a room and then right, drag that in. That's like if the next room exists. So like at room 0, room 1 will exist. So that's the next one, because he's already started the top room. And then at room 1, there is not a room afterward, so it doesn't exist. So you're good, it won't go to the next room. And then we go to the next room. Go to the next room. Yeah, it's really easy, right? Have mill top in the rooms. Next room. So it'll go to the next room for room 0, and it won't go to the next room for room 1. It's not a crash game. So play. All right. So now we're gonna run around and oh yeah. So we forgot one thing. There's a problem here. So we didn't make it check for if you got all the coins, right? So what we need to do there is we need to go to control. Control has a lot of conditionals, right? It has a lot of questions. So we're going to ask the question, how many coins are there in the map? If there's 0 coins, then we're going to check if there's a room and then go to that next room. So the way to do that is we're going to use this little question. We drag this little like circle with a number in it. So test instance count, so that means we're going to see how many coins there are. So if there are 0 coins, nice and easy, then we're going to check if the next room exists and go to it. So I go in here, play, and you're going to hear some music again. Loading it up, and move around. New coins, yay! Alright, so basically today, this is it. So we did a great job. Today we learned how to make a view, how to make our player, how to make them look different, right? How to make different rooms. So like you can see that the score stayed between rooms. So the player has, oh man, it plays the music twice. Okay, we can change that too. But, okay, we can't get in there, I forgot. So, man, that's beautiful. We got that beautiful, like, staggered music. So we got all the coins, yay. But we learned a lot of stuff today, alright. So the last thing we want to do to make the music not play twice is go to the object player create event. We're going to make a conditional, main 1, conditional. Check if the sound is playing. If it's not playing, then play it. So if music is not playing, play it. And then we're good. So that's our whole game. So I appreciate you guys coming tonight. This is very good. Sorry that took so long. As I said, it's just like we needed this stuff to be able to make a game. You know, like before it wasn't really a game yet. But so that's like all the basics that you'll need to make a game in GameMaker. And so I hope I prepared you well tonight. Hope you walk away smarter guys. Thank you very much for watching and being here today. And have a good one.